Dr. Faruqi was of the view that Israel constituted a danger to Muslims far greater than the danger posed by the Euro-Christian crusades of the medieval age, or by the Euro-colonialism of the modern secular age. Hence he rejected the call for the acceptance of Israel as an integral member of a world of Muslim nations in Asia-Africa. This book has made a humble attempt to complement Dr. Faruqi's work by providing Muslim teachers, in particular, with the Quranic guidance as it pertains to Jerusalem and its destiny, Jews, Christians, and Jerusalem in the Quran. Finally, while the subject of Jerusalem in the Quran is important to Muslims, we were particularly interested in reaching out to Jews and Christians with the Holy Quran. As time passes, and the last hour draws nearer, it is becoming more and more difficult for Christian and Jewish scholarship to respond to the Quran and a Hadith as they deal with the subject of this book, as well as with Gog and Magog, the false Messiah, and the return of Jesus, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The evidence that confirms the truth of the Quran continues to increase. This book made a distinction between two different Jews. There are those Israelite Jews who trace their ancestry to Father Abraham sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They are a Semitic people whose racial affinity to the Arabs is quite clear. On the other hand, there are blue-eyed, blonde-haired Europeans who converted to Judaism once upon a time, and who share no such descent from Abraham sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The opinion of this writer, and Allah knows best, is that the original Gog and Magog are definitely located somewhere within the ranks of such European Jews. Gog and Magog overturned Christian European civilization and transformed it into the present godless civilization. Gog and Magog established the Zionist movement and the State of Israel. There can be no question of the fact that this book would be psychologically shocking to Western, Christian, Jewish, and even to some Muslim readers. But let us make it plain and clear that we have not written this book to offend such a reading audience. The internal reality of the world today, as understood through the Quran, is quite different from the external appearances on the basis of which such people form judgments. There is a world of difference in the perception of those who see with two eyes, the external and internal, and those who see with only one eye, because they are internally blind. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam warned that the age of Dajjal, the false Messiah, would be an age in which appearance and reality would be completely different from each other. None can see internally and penetrate reality in the last age save those who faithfully follow Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We feel confident that there would be some Jews, at least, who, upon reading in this book the Quranic explanation of the events which are unfolding in the Holy Land, would, insha'Allah, be convinced of the truth in the Quran and would consequently accept Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as a true prophet of the God of Abraham. Interpretation and explanation. We have sometimes interpreted a text of the Quran ourselves when such a text was not directly explained, either by Allah, Most Wise, or by His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We did so in order to locate the Quranic explanation for our subject. When we did so, we exposed ourselves to the summary rejection of those who admit to no interpretation whatsoever of sacred texts other than its direct and literal meaning. We invite those who reject our interpretations to themselves present that explanation with which the Quran explains the return of the Jews to the Holy Land. Secondly, when we interpreted a Quranic text, we always did so with the proviso that Allah knows best. Allahu Alam. Jerusalem and the Quran's claim to truth. It has become quite unfashionable in this age of the secularization of knowledge to resort to the revealed word of the God of Abraham sallallahu alaihi wasallam to seek to explain the world. Yet this is precisely what took place when the State of Israel emerged in the modern world. European Zionist Jews used the Torah to argue the case of their God-given right to take possession of the Holy Land in order to restore the State of Israel that was first established by the Prophet King David sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The first European Prime Minister of Israel, David Ben-Gurion, stated quite frankly, "The Bible is our deed to the land of Israel." We were therefore quite justified in responding to the advent of Jewish Israel with a presentation that is derived exclusively from the Quran. As the historical process unfolds in this the last stage of history, and as the Quran increasingly demonstrates its capacity to explain accurately the world and Jerusalem today, this would validate its claim to be truth. More than anything else, this book has presented the claim of the Quran that it is truth. This is precisely what the book itself declares in a surah, which is itself named Al-Fussilat, that which is clearly spelled out. In time, we shall make them fully understand our messages through that which unfolds in the utmost horizons of the universe and within themselves, so that it will become clear to them that this revelation is indeed the truth. Will this not suffice for them to be convinced that your Lord is witness unto all things? Quran, Al-Fussilat, 41, 53-4. Jerusalem, a city sacred to Muslims, Christians, and Jews, is destined to play the most significant of all roles in the end of history. Islam, Christianity, and Judaism are all agreed on this. There are an abundance of signs, plainly visible to those blessed with spiritual insight eye, who see with two eyes, the external and the internal, that we now live in that last age, the age that will witness the end of history. It is critically important that the Quranic view on this subject be presented again and again at this time, since Jerusalem has already begun to play that role, which is her destiny. This book explains that role. It is also important that Jerusalem's role in the end of history should be explained with as much intuitive spiritual insight as is possible, since that role is oftentimes discernible only in this way. Our objective was, of course, to address the general reading public. It is particularly important for them to be acquainted with the destiny of Jerusalem and the Holy Land, established in the Quran and hadith, the word of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because of the rival claims to Jerusalem, each of which declare that Jerusalem is destined to validate its exclusive claim to truth and invalidate all others. To paraphrase, this means that Jews believe in a destiny of Jerusalem that will witness the advent of the Messiah. When the Messiah comes, he will restore the golden age of Judaism, and he will rule the world from Jerusalem. That will validate the Jewish claim to truth and invalidate the claims of rivals. Christians have the same belief. When Jesus, the Messiah, returns, he will reign over the world from Jerusalem, and he will validate the Christian dogmas of Trinity, incarnation, atonement, etc. Thus will the Christian claim to truth be validated, and all others invalidated. The Muslims also believe that Jerusalem has a destiny that will validate Islam's claim to truth and invalidate the current Christian and Jewish claims. Since these three conceptions of truth, all of which claim to originate from Abraham sallallahu alaihi wasallam, have such profound differences, they cannot possibly all be true. The Muslim view, as it emerges in this book, is that Jesus sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the true Messiah, would return to life on earth one day, would go to Jerusalem and rule the world as Hakiman, a just ruler, will marry, have children, and die. Muslims will pray over his body, and he will be buried next to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the city of Medina, in Arabia, where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is buried. When he returns, Jesus sallallahu alaihi wasallam will break the cross, and that will be the end of Christianity, the religion of the cross, and he will kill the pigs. Narrated Abu Hurairah, Allah's Messenger said, "By him in whose hand is my soul, the Son of Mary will shortly descend amongst you as a just ruler. He will break the cross and kill the pigs, and abolish jizya, a punitive tax imposed upon Jews and Christians resident in the territory of Islam. Then there will be abundance of money, and nobody will accept charitable gifts." Sahih Bukhari. The word pigs cannot be interpreted literally, because such an interpretation does not fit into the context of the text. Rather, the use of the word pigs indicates extreme divine anger. This book poses the question, who are the pigs that will be killed by the Messiah when he returns? With whom will the Messiah be so angry? Who attempted to crucify him? Muslims have precise information of the moment in time when Jesus sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Messiah, will return. It will be when the water in the sea in Galilee has almost dried up, or has dried up. It will be at this very time that Allah will send Christ, son of Mary. He will descend at the white minaret on the eastern side of Damascus, wearing 2 garments lightly dyed with saffron, and placing his hands on the wings of 2 angels. He lowers his head, there will fall beads of perspiration from his head, and when he raises it up, beads like pearls will scatter from it. Every non-believer who smells the odor of his body will die, and his breath will reach as far as he is able to see. He will then search for him Dajjal until he catches hold of him at the gate of Lud and kills him. Then a people whom Allah had protected will come to Jesus, son of Mary, and he will wipe their faces and inform them of their ranks in paradise. It will be under such conditions that Allah will reveal to Jesus these words, I have brought forth from among my servants such people against whom none will be able to fight. You take these people safely to Tor, and then Allah will send Gog and Magog, and they will swarm down from every slope. The first of them will pass the lake of Tiberias and drink out of it. And when the last of them passes, he will say, there was once water here. Sahih Muslim. The Sea of Galilee, otherwise called Lake Tiberias or Lake Kinneret, has less water today than ever before in history. And that water is constantly decreasing because Israel's Euro-Jewish government is taking out more water than nature can put back into the sea. It is as simple as that. When the water dries up and there is no more drinking water left, the Zionist Jews will finally reach the supreme moment. In their overall strategy to get the Arabs to submit to Jewish rule in the Holy Land, that would imply their worship of the false Messiah rather than the worship of Allah, Most High. They would be required to do so in order to get water from the desalinization plants that Israel would build. The Arabs would be too poor to be able to afford to buy water. This book makes it clear that all that such Jews have to do to measure the time left for their final destruction is to observe the water level in the Sea of Galilee. Jerusalem in the Quran, by Imran N. Hossein. Part 1. Chapter 2. The Mystery of Jerusalem. The town, in the Quran. And there is a ban on the people of a town which we destroyed, that they the people of the town shall not return to reclaim their town, until Gog and Magog are released, and eventually they descend from every height or spread out in every direction. Quran Al-Anbiya, 21, 95-6. When Gog and Magog do so, they assume control over the world, and rule the world in the world order of Gog and Magog. It is strange, mysterious, and enigmatic that the name of the city Jerusalem, Arabic Quds, or Beit al-Maqdis, does not appear in the Quran. Yet so many of the prophets mentioned in the Quran had links with that holy city, and in it is located that only other house of Allah, apart from those built in Makkah and Medina, ever built by a prophet of Allah, Most High. Not only is that house of Allah Masjid al-Aqsa mentioned in the Quran, but so, also, is the miraculous nighttime journey in which Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was taken from Makkah to Jerusalem and to that house of Allah. Perhaps the reason for this mysterious treatment of the subject is located in the Islamic view that Jerusalem is destined to play a central, crucial role in the last age. Hence there was, perhaps, a divine need to cloud the name of the city, as well as its destiny, with a sacred cloud that would not be lifted until the appropriate time had come. And Jerusalem was poised and ready to play its role in the end of history. This, perhaps, explains the almost total absence of Islamic literature on the subject of the destiny of Jerusalem, something to which Dr. Ismail Raji al-Faruqi referred when he lamented, "Unfortunately, there is no Islamic literature on the subject." Ch. 1. The fact is that no one could have written on this subject until that time arrived when the cloud was lifted. This book was written in consequence of the conviction that the cloud is now being lifted. When the Jews rejected Jesus sallallahu alaihi wasallam as the Messiah and subsequently boasted that they had killed him. See Quran al-Nisa 4-157. They remained convinced that the advent of the promised Messiah and with him, the return of the golden age of Judaism was still to come. They believed that the return of that golden age required, among other things, the following: that the Holy Land would be liberated from the control of Gentiles, that the Jews would return to the Holy Land from their exile in order to reclaim it, that the state of Israel would be restored, that the temple or masjid would be restored for the Jewish worship of the God of Abraham, that Israel would eventually become the ruling state in the world in a manner similar to that achieved in the age of David sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Solomon sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that a Jewish king who would be the Messiah would rule the world from the throne of David sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that is, from Jerusalem as the ruler of Israel, and finally, that his rule would be eternal. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam declared that one of the major signs of the last day was that Allah Most High would deceive the Jews by raising and sending against them one who would impersonate the Messiah and lead them to believe that the golden age was returning. But instead, that false Messiah would lead them by exquisite deception to the greatest divine punishment ever inflicted upon any in Allah's creation. Al-Masih el-Dajjal or Dajjal, the false Messiah, who is known by Christians as the Antichrist, was created by Allah Most High and would be released into the world in the last age. To accomplish this mission, now consider the following. The Holy Land was liberated from a Jewish perspective from Muslim Gentile rule when the British general Allenby conquered Jerusalem in 1917. Israelite Jews have now returned to reclaim the Holy Land after their divinely ordained 200-year exile. This has occurred exactly as the Quran declared 1,400 years ago that it would happen at the end time. The remaining Caucasian Jews in USA and elsewhere seem destined to soon reach there. A state of Israel was restored in 1948, and it lays claim to being the ancient state of Israel. An Israel which is armed to the teeth with an arsenal of nuclear weapons seems destined to exploit the Palestinian Intifada and the September 11th Mossad attack on America, which created conditions favorable for Israel, with a war in which Israel will defy USA, Europe, the UN,